Hello, my name is Martin Smith, and I'm doing a series of Search for Gravity. It started many years ago, about 30 years ago, before I had a stroke, and I came to some interesting conclusions about what types of things could create gravity. Normally I have been starting these things off with a joke, and I'm doing a issue just to give an introductory to it in case anybody watches the whole thing. Like I say, normally start off with a joke. This time I won't start it off with a story. And the story begins with a church bell ringing. And within that ringing, these vibrations stay inside the bell itself. And the pieces in the bell act differently than matter. And the vibrations stay within it. So if you take the bell and expand it out, it becomes the size of a universe. And the vibrations travel at the speed of light. And compared to the bell, that's very small, at least 13 billion years to get from one side to the other. Now, in the process of this bell ringing, the waves inside of it are known to the entities inside the bell as light waves. They are just that. They are propagation of energy. They also create, these waves get into eddy currents. They bounce around, and as they hit themselves, they break apart and actually spin and create temporary masses. Those temporary masses interact with more photons, which create more masses, and over time stellar dust evolves, and then they get together and make universes. Not universes. They get together and make solar systems and larger systems. Now, here's where the joke lies, and that is the bell itself. It doesn't exist. Now, if we think of ourselves as coming from something big and grand, emotionally we can accept it. If we think of ourselves as being nothing more than waves, such as waves on an ocean, then it really creates a vile taste in the mind, at least in mine. I just don't like the concept. I don't like the idea. Every single idea that I could come up with, it comes down to the same thing, and that's luminiferous ether. In Einstein's time, physicists started looking at creation in the face. And that creation says that we are nothing more than waves, such as waves on an ocean. We're not the water, we're not the air. We're the energy that propagates through the water and the air. We're the energy that propagates through this really dense structure, such as a church bell or a non-existent church bell. It's really nice to think of the Big Bang Theory. It says we were created, and we can see a resolve to a purpose, and that everything revolves around us again. One of the main issues that a lot of people think about the Big Bang, one of the main things that proves the Big Bang Theory wrong, and nobody really wants to talk about it, is that we are not the center of the universe. If it's 13 billion light years in any direction, if you think of the probability that we would be in the dead center of that universe, it's not 13 billion to 1. It's 13 billion times pi times r squared if it's flat. And then there's another formula if it's a sphere. Even so, even if it was linear, it's 13 billion to 1 odds against us being in the center. So anyone who thinks that we are the center of the universe, that the universe is 13 billion years in every direction of us, is sadly mistaken, and it doesn't work, and it very quickly disproves the Big Bang. 13 billion to 1 odds at best. So the universe is what it is. We have some ideas of what it might be. Gravity is what it is, and that's what I'm chasing after. The first idea of gravity, Einstein's idea is space-time, and he went back to luminiferous ether, and he put gravity as a warping of space-time. I don't see it happening that way at all. At best, I see it as a vibration, such as quicksand. When you create vibrations, it sucks things down into it, or it compacts it. I feel this is similar to what luminiferous ether is doing. It's the most likely probability. The problem is that we don't have enough information about it to pursue it. We don't have enough information. If we were to take a cubic meter, 1 meter by 1 meter by 1 meter, out in space, strip everything out of it, take all the mass out of it, take all the energy out of it, all the photons, it would still have properties. One of the biggest ones that nobody can deny is the property of the speed of light. Speed of light still travels, it propagates through 1 meter of empty space, 1 meter of null space. Space with absolutely nothing in it. It still travels at a set speed. Now, there's a lot of properties that luminiferous ether can be contributed as having, and this is where physics in its greatest blunder decided that a couple of the properties don't work, so they threw the baby out with the bathwater. And then because luminiferous ether, or because we had to have something of propagation, other names came up, such as space-time, such as free space, and there's quite a few others out there. I can't think of them all off the top. I am chasing after a least likely suspect, and that is a graviton. There's 3 possibilities in graviton. One is a photon being in a double helix with a positive and negative charge, double helix having a spin. We know this because we can split the spin in 2 different directions. We can make one spin go one direction and one photon spin go another direction. There are ways of doing it, and it's just a known fact. So that's an undeniable that photons have spin. So because they spin, because they have a positive negative charge, they are electromagnetic waves and travel in electromagnetic waves. And if you look at it from that point, then the 2 parts of a photon, as they're traveling, they actually go faster than the speed of light. So if you were to take half of a photon, if they're capable of breaking apart, to which I have no idea, but if they are, and it's a big if, and that's the direction I'm going, then you have a possibility of the photon being graviton being half a photon. That was disproven because the gravity waves coming in are traveling at the speed of light. So if a graviton is a photon, then it would be the actual photon itself. And now, if you look at string theorists, a lot of them put the idea that as a graviton hits something, it goes into a phase in which it no longer interacts with matter anymore. I was going under the assumption that they are so small, gravitons are so small, that when the photon/graviton hits something, it breaks apart. So half of the energy stays with the object, pushing it in a direction, the other half splits apart, and because it has spin to it, which is magnetic field, it will curve. And since it doesn't have two parts in order to keep it in a straight line, then it has only either a positive or a negative magnetic charge, and those charges are going to curve towards magnetic fields and hence miss the other object that the first object is now being attracted to or being pushed into. This is the direction that I'm headed in to some degree. And one of the things I stopped at 30 years ago is I did not know the diameter of a photon. I think I figured that out. That is one of the parts in this series. The other aspect of science that I really need to make a statement about, because since Einstein, a lot of physicists got together, and in order to finance and get money out of businessmen, they needed to have a cut and dry statement of what physics was, and to have an idea of, hey, we're getting stuff done. If you tell people, well, we have no idea, then you have to make it grand, and you have to make a show of it, a magic show of it, would be the best term for it. So what they did is they got together and said, okay, we have to have some basic beliefs. So they took the best possibilities, best probabilities of how physics worked, and they declared them as fact. So on the comments, if you're leaving comments, if you have any ideas whatsoever, even if you think the Cat in the Hat did it, write it down. You'd be amazed at how some really, really stupid ideas even if you consider your idea to be completely stupid, write it down. Because if you wrap your mind around an idea that's approaching the same thing from a different direction, it may open the door of that eureka moment that actually either disproves the direction, this little particular rabbit hole that I'm following right now, or it proves it. Don't be shy. Let it rip. This is not about learning what physics is. This is about exploring what it might be. And there is a very big difference between the two. So the main reason I am doing this is to use these videos as a sounding board so that I can go back and say, yeah, that sounded like a good idea at the time. Glad I proved it wrong. Who knows, something good might come out of it. And that's what exploration is all about. It's about going into places that nobody has gone before, or going into places that 1,000 people have gone in before, never wrote, never said anything about it, and then just left others to go into the same blind alley. So let's accomplish something with these videos. Let's accomplish something with what's written down. If you're just writing to say, hey man, this is really cool stuff, please don't. Waste of time. Thumbs up works great. And I'll talk to you on the next video.